Cool. I guess this is live now. I am just going to be drawing, but I wanted to test out this live streaming platform. So if you happen to be watching, I had this idea to do kind of this like Pinterest panel type of template, and I figured for I don't know, the next few months I would start drawing stuff just only on this kind of placement. And so yeah, I think I'm just gonna try to have a little fun. I'm really trying to get back into drawing on a regular basis because I have really not been doing it all that much, to be totally frank. And I enjoy sharing my drawings, but I really don't enjoy editing videos. So I figured perhaps I'll do this and I'll just do it live, you know? And then that way I don't have to edit any videos, because I really don't like editing videos. It's not my kind of thing. And I think maybe I'll draw some letters or something for right now, so that we can just kind of play around, because like I said, I've been having a little bit of art block lately and I'm trying to break that. So and I don't know, what the heck do I talk about? Because I feel like you have to talk about stuff on a live stream. Well, I'll open with a shameless plug for anyone who actually does watch, because there's literally no reason anyone would be watching this right now. But some of my designer buddies and I have started a design newsletter, particularly for conservative creators, since we feel like the conservative movement does not have a lot of strong design going on, and that we think it's just kind of tragic that that's missing from conservatism just generally, is like strong aesthetic judgment. It's very prevalent, you know, on the left. And so we decided to start this newsletter. It's called Design Right, and you can subscribe to it on my website, which is alexjimenezdesign.com. My other two designers that are working on it with me, Amanda and Ben, are both way better at promoting than I am. And Amanda is pretty prolific with writing. We do a weekly newsletter, articles, and she's like pretty crazy on top of it, to be totally honest. But this week I did a newsletter, and I've been doing a series of newsletters on I've been doing a series of newsletters on design literacy, because one of the things that I think is really helpful for people is that if you're gonna be wanting the movement to have better design overall, then you got to do a little bit of education about design literacy. So learning things like composition and all of that, learning how to work with color. I'm really just going into all the fundamentals in that series. So currently there's 3 parts to it, and in the last one I was talking about basically using color to guide and balance composition, and we're going to get into all kinds of other things. My most recent article, though, is actually about copyright, because I have a little experience there. 100% my experience is just as as a designer, over the years I've had to kind of learn some stuff about copyright in order to do my job, and it was an interesting topic to bring up because we were doing a training at work, and I was effectively explaining to a lot of the newer team members how can they tell the difference between copyright terminology, because it can be really confusing. So that article is one that just came out yesterday, I think, maybe the day before was when we sent it. I have no idea what's going to be coming out this week. If I'm writing the article, then it probably won't come out till Thursday. And if Amanda or Ben are writing the article, it'll probably come out on time. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, if you have questions, I can see the chat. Go ahead and suggest any topics you would want me to talk about while I'm drawing this, and I will talk about those things instead. In the meantime, I want to keep talking about copyright because that's, frankly speaking, that's what's on my mind. So, one of the things that if you're a designer, the reason copyright's been on my mind a lot is because of AI, and this question has come up. In the AI world, obviously it's a major issue among a lot of designers. Is AI stealing people's art? So it's inherently connected to the question of copyright, because if you don't have a solid understanding of what is intellectual property and the rules regarding it, then it's kind of hard to answer those questions. And then inevitably the question is also, let's say you are using AI to make art, which I personally don't really have any problem with people doing that. Is your stuff safe to use? Because a lot of people think that, it's original material, therefore it must be safe to use. Turns out that's really a difficult question to answer. It's difficult for all the same reasons as copyright in general, because what really matters in copyright is the distribution first and foremost. The distribution affects everything. You can violate copyright technically all day long. If you never publish what you made, then you can't get in trouble, right? So fundamentally, distribution is the very first thing that you have to address. And once you've addressed the question of distribution, then you have to ask yourself, based on that distribution, what kind of legal toes may I have stepped on along the way? So let's take an example of that. There's always this question in creating artwork and design where copyright is involved. We're using stock assets. The question is, hey, can I sell this thing? In other words, can I use this end product commercially? Can I take this stock asset and can I apply it in a project that's going to be commercial in nature? Now, stock vendors have got policies about that, but there's a logic to it that you need to understand. The logic of it generally starts with the issue of whether or not that asset is rights managed. Rights managed means that, let's say if you got that stock asset from something like Getty, AP, Reuters, Alamy, and so forth, they obviously are licensing the asset to you, but the question is whether there is a third party that has a claim on that asset. And typically that comes up when the asset features a public figure or a person who has not signed a waiver to their image and any kind of use that's been applied with their image. So here you're running into questions of what can you do with that asset, given that it features a person who hasn't actually given you permission to use it in like blanketly all circumstances. So most stock providers don't go and get those permissions, particularly if they're featuring imagery and video of public figures. Now, if you're talking about just your standard type of creative stock, like things you see where it's, a stock image of a family. Well, usually those are not really related people. It's a bunch of models, and they were paid to make that thing. So they always have, they pretty much always have their rights released because effectively they were hired to produce the thing, right? So that's not going to be a big concern. But if the picture features, say, like an athlete, all right, well, there's going to be restrictions on what you can do with that image. And so what you end up seeing is that the stock providers will usually say something like, this is not allowed to be used in commercial applications. Because, if you use a public figure's image in a commercial application, it sort of implies that they endorse your product, your service, whatever it is that you happen to be applying them to. And you got to be careful about that. So they'll say, hey, rights not released. You can't just go use this in a commercial application. So that basically holds true when it comes to AI, which is that, you can use AI to create all kinds of things. But if you use AI to create something that features the likeness of a public figure, you still have to be concerned about whether you are portraying that person as endorsing your product, right? And that's where, assuming that AI is the safe option can actually be really, really risky, because you don't know if that person might be upset that their image was used. And it won't matter if it is, it won't matter if it's generative imagery versus a photograph in a case like that. Even if you had, illustrated the person, from scratch by hand, you're still gonna be running that risk, okay? So in that sense, AI is no different than stock, because if you don't have the rights to use a person's likeness, and then you go ahead and use it in a manner that would be considered commercial in nature, you're probably going to run into all the same problems with that person. Now, you might not run into issues with a stock provider because you're making something with AI. You're not using a piece of stock from a particular provider incorrectly, but with that person, you could get in trouble. And that's the whole reason why, in those cases, the stock providers don't allow you to use the asset commercially in the first place, because they don't want to get in trouble and they don't have the rights released. But let's take another example. Okay, so you might be hearing this and going, oh, wait. So if I want to do something that features like Donald Trump, or whoever, Barack Obama, blah, 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 Derek Jeter, does that mean I can never use their image? And the answer to that is that, again, there's another kind of use case from commercial, which is an editorial use case. An editorial use case is a situation where you are featuring that image because it's relevant in a narrative sense to what you're making. So if you were, for example, making a video or writing an article or something like that, where you're talking about this public figure, then you wouldn't need them, for the most part, you wouldn't need them to sign a release for you to use their image, because it's very clear from the material directly that you're not selling something. It's clear that you're not implying that they endorse something. It's very clear that you're stating your opinion or your assessment of that person, and that and that basically the use of their image is connected to your opinion, right? Your angle. I don't want to overuse the word editorial, but you're providing editorial context, and that in and of itself makes the application an editorial one in nature. So if what you made is very clearly editorial in nature in that regard, then from a rights release standpoint, you're probably okay. But now let's look at the real part where AI just gets messy. as far as it being safe compared to stock. The real part where it gets messy is that AI has been trained, most models, particularly ones that are, like ChatGPT, Claude, Midjourney, so forth. They've all been trained by scrubbing the internet, by looking at data sets provided by various companies, and they have, in the course of doing that, been trained on licensed stock assets that happen to show up on the internet here and there. So, that's where you start to run into some risk, because you might ask for it to generate an image of a person, a public figure, right? Or whatever. And you can't be 100% sure that the image it generates is not substantially similar or identical to an asset that is licensed somewhere. And so when you set aside the whole issue of rights management and whether or not a thing can be used commercially or not, you are still running into this problem of, am I violating a copyright? Is this potentially, recreating an asset that is owned by a stock provider? And in a case like that, there have been situations recently where, the end user is held liable. So that's a risky business. And there is no really great way of dealing with situations like that when you're talking about something like a editorial placement, because you just have to try and double check as best you can. Hope that you don't, hope that you haven't, swum into some dangerous waters. That being said, in the creative space, like I said, I'm not against people using AI. In the creative space, there's a whole slew of assets that are called creative stock, and they're the kind of stock assets where you would think things like templates, fonts, stuff like that. They are not going to be things that have to deal with rights management. They're also the kind of things that are pretty much so generic in nature that say if it was a texture, it would be almost impossible for somebody to say, oh, that was my texture. You copied the texture that I had created or that had been licensed by my group. Now you owe me money. You've recreated something. Those kind of areas, I would say you have a lot of leeway when it comes to AI. It seems low risk, at least to me. I'm not a lawyer. A lot of this is just I read the contracts, for example, when I'm at work, and I have a little bit of experience working in trademarks, and I just also don't think that this is one of those situations where it's crazy complicated, so you can kind of make logical inferences too. Anyway, yeah. So takeaway on using AI is you've got to deal with all the same risk factors when it comes to rights management as you do with stock, and be careful. And then you've got to doubly be careful when you're in those situations where you're trying to create something that might be editorial in nature and featuring something that might turn out to already be a licensable piece of stock that someone's going to come get on your case about it, But when it comes to creative stuff, illustrations and so forth, I think you're probably pretty safe. Anyway, kind of wondering what the heck else do I talk about, because I could just ramble on dumb things like this that probably nobody's interested in. What I'm drawing here is the letter Y. You guessed it. This is the exciting stuff that I am drawing today. Because like I said at the beginning, I've been having some art block. It kind of goes back several years. Basically, I had a sketchbook stolen, like, I don't know, like 6 years ago, and I really have never been able to get back in the groove with drawing on a regular basis. So every once in a while I draw, and then I kind of like lose the rhythm. It hasn't really affected work, but it's definitely been one of those things where I don't know, I have trouble with it. Sometimes drawing letters is easy though, so that's why I decided to just go with this, because I knew that I probably wouldn't have any huge trouble doing it. Anyway, if anyone's got any thoughts out there, I'm just gonna keep on drawing, you know? I really wish that on live streams you could play music. Maybe you can, and I just don't know, but I'm under the impression that if I was to play music, which I usually do when I'm drawing, that that like the video would get blocked or something, again, because of, you know, licensing concerns. But I don't know. My hope is to do like one of these a week if I've got the bandwidth, and then I mentioned before the Design Right newsletter that I'm working on with a couple other conservative designers, and you know, one of our objectives would be to start doing a podcast. So, you know, I'm definitely looking forward to us starting that. We had to put it on hold for a little bit. We were going to launch it. Like a couple weeks ago, actually. Oh, hey, thanks. I'm glad you're interested. And yes, everything is good. I don't want anyone to think that anything is going badly. I have just been trying to break out of this kind of art slump that I've been feeling like I've been in. Because I basically do marker drawing, and I like to draw cartoon characters for the most part. But basically, I had been on a roll for like 2 straight years of doing a drawing every day. You know, I would get up like early in the morning before going to work, and I would do a drawing, come up with a character, color them in, ink them, whatever. And for a lot of them, I would also like record the drawing, you know, and post it on Instagram. And then I was like 60% into a sketchbook, right? Because I fill up these sketchbooks when I do that. I was 60% through this one sketchbook, which means, you know, about that's probably like 100 drawings. You know, there's quite a few pages in a sketchbook. And then it got stolen out of a car in San Mateo, which is up in NorCal. So that was upsetting. I've been trying to get back into it. Anyway, but yes, everything is going just fine, you know, all things considered. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm up to on here. So what I'm trying to do here is, I'm not going to fail at it, is I'm making the letter Y, but it's going to be sort of like, I don't know, goopy? Goopy is maybe what I'm going for here. I'm definitely not going to finish this, you know, all on the live stream, just for the record. You can see that I don't work that fast, but yeah, so it's going to change colors and look like it's sort of ripping apart. That's the idea here. So maybe what I'll try and do is do this top portion of it. Yeah, licensing, sorry, I'm reading the comments. They're up on the screen in front of me here. But there's like a delay. So, yeah, licensing is complicated. Yeah, no, I hear you. You know, the thing that's complicated with licensing, not to like go back and beat a dead horse on it, but it's the terminology. That's why I wrote my article this week on our newsletter about it, because I said it starts with distribution, but you can really think of the licensing terminology, at least when it comes to like basic stock, understanding basic stock. I'm not talking about like massive corporations with crazy huge licensing stipulations and contracts for global distribution through different TV channels, and that kind of stuff obviously can be real complicated. It's mostly complicated because it's just about like, hey, who's getting paid, and how do we ensure that they that no one's getting anything that they aren't paying for. That's really what makes those things complicated. The basic things you could think of as they divide up into a matrix of 3 factors, okay? So I said distribution. Then the other is asset type. And then the third one is use case. And so let's distinguish use case from distribution, okay? So distribution means things like digital media, print media, broadcast, and so forth. There's OTT, streaming, syndication of third parties. That's what it means when you say. That's what it means when you say distribution. Okay. Use case, okay, is different, and we were just talking about it. That means the commercial versus editorial use case. Then I don't like that. Then you get into things like asset type. And this is, so it might be easy at first to kind of mix up things like distribution and use case, but you can iron them out pretty quickly and wrap your head around it. The part that tends to trip people up is the situation of asset type, and that's mostly because the language applied by stock vendors sometimes blends it. So let's take the example of Getty. If you were to get Getty's premium access agreement, for example, and then you open it up and you look at the assets, you'll see that they come in 2 categories on Getty's site. There's a pair of tabs when you're inside your account looking at the assets available to you. They'll say editorial on the one tab, and so you say, editorial, that's a use case. Okay, I get it. Editorial means for the most part they're rights managed and all that. Cool. But then the next one, the one next to it says creative assets. Well, what the hell is a creative asset? I kind of like, it's a bit of a joke, but I'm like, do you ever meet an artist or a video editor or anyone who's using stock who goes, oh yeah, these are the ones I use non-creatively? No, they're all applied creatively. So what the heck does it mean when someone says it's a creative asset? What they really mean is that these are what they actually mean in this case is they mean that they're commercial safe. They're pretty boilerplate, basic type of assets, like I said before, that are not restricted to editorial only. So that's just confusing, at a glance, because you're thinking, oh shoot, what's this other kind of, what is this, a creative asset? Well, where are the commercial assets? Well, those are the commercial assets, unless you go and get the rights for something that was otherwise marked as editorial. So yeah, it gets confusing for people, it's not surprising that it would get confusing for people. I gotta turn off these notifications, man. They shouldn't be popping up on the screen. That's not helpful. By the way, if anyone likes to draw who's watching this, hopefully it's not incredibly frustrating, because I could just go and do stuff like this. Whoops, apparently I can't go and do stuff like that. Here, let's fill in this gap. I think that'll do it now. Nope. Well, anyway, trust me, you can do drag and drop and fill stuff like that in Procreate, but I don't really like to do it because you still have to color in the edges, and I don't know, it gets me out of the flow when I do when I use those features. It's not the vibe, and the vibe needs to be immaculate. for the drawing to be good. Also, because I like to leave sketchy lines sometimes. So anyway, let's come up here and turn this top part blue. I like to put my colors up like that because then I can, so you go like this, you can tap and hold, and then you let go, and there's the color. So that's kind of cool. Alrighty, so obviously the edge is gonna need that same treatment that I just did on the other side. So there we go. Nice, like that. Sweet. Okay, now this all has to be blue. So let's do that. I'm thinking that I probably made a mistake here in the way that I did these colors. Can you guys see what I'm drawing? Honest to God, I don't even know. I think you can. I can see it previewed on my end, so you should be able to see it. Hopefully I'm not like leaning my head down and blocking the camera, because I am the kind of person who sort of like, when I'm drawing, I really like lean forward and I stick my nose right in the drawing, you know what I'm saying? It's real difficult if I have a cold and you get the snot dripping on the drawing. Disgusting. Okay, anyway, who else has got anyone got some questions? I appreciate that question there so that I could keep rambling about licensing. What's up? I see Zane. What's up, Zane? Alright, so doing this, and then I gotta erase. It'll look cool in a second, guys, trust me. Like the youths say, trust the process. It'll look cool in just a minute, okay? Just a minute here, and I'll make it look like goopy. It'll be cool. It'll be cool for sure, for sure. Alright, here's the real question, you guys. Here's the real question. Shameless plug again. Would you ever buy my art book? Because, you know, it exists. And like, I wouldn't mind if you bought it. You know what I'm saying? Alright, here we go. We're doing the letter Y. Maybe I should see, what letter should I do after I finish this one? Someone throw it out there. That's really what I need. What I need is motivation to keep drawing. Because what happens is, I get busy in regular life stuff, and then I spend a lot of my free artistic energy doing stuff for work, to be totally honest. I'm like the kind of person who gets preoccupied with a project, and then that's the thing I've got to work on, because I can't, if I'm gonna work and do design, then I like want to work on the thing that I'm already in the headspace for, which, honest to God, almost did that today. But then I thought, no, you see what you should do is you should like revisit this whole trying to live stream thing that you started last July, as in 2025. And you got frustrated with it because you're, you know, technologically stupid and can't figure these things out. So here we are. But I think we're all satisfied with this result, possibly. Maybe not. Who knows? Definitely would what? Definitely would buy the art book. Yes, nice. Okay, well, I'll get it back up on my site, because I redid my site, and like half my portfolio is currently, more than half my portfolio is disconnected right now that you used to be able to see on my website. And I also disconnected the shop page, of course, but I'll get it back up there. And I saw that I could connect links and stuff to the video. So, you know, in case you guys didn't notice, this is quite literally the first time that I've live streamed in like years, so long. But I want to try it out because I do like to draw, and it is motivating too, because I actually do like when people watch me do art and stuff. a lot of artists don't like people. Okay, so check this out. I'll show you this. If you guys don't know Procreate, so this is a cool little thing I like. So I can go in here and I can create a mask. This is dope. So in Photoshop, they've got masks, right? So this is a thing. So here's the deal. You know, I'm a fount of font. I'm one of those of knowledge, full of it. And when it comes to art things, not so much that any artist would care, but for anyone who's not, and you want to know some cool tips and tricks, and they occasionally just pop into my head. Oh, I gotta unlock this. Hang on. Unlock, delete. There we go. That was from the last drawing that I duplicated. Okay, so there's a thing called destructive and non-destructive editing. Okay, so destructive editing. Okay, I've been coloring on top of this outline. Let's zoom out here so everyone can see it. So I've been coloring on top of this thing, my outline that I did, and using that to kind of guide, right, the shape of what I'm drawing. But now I want these gaps to go away. So what's called destructive editing would be if I simply took an eraser, right, and then got in here and erased it, right? So that would be, this would be destructive editing. And of course, everyone in the class can guess why it's called destructive editing, because I'm actually removing portions of this bounding shape, right? So that's really not ideal. There's a lot of times in professional art situations and whatever, you don't really want to do that, you know, because you don't want to end up with that. That's, good Lord, that's ugly. Okay, that's no good. So let's undo. All right. So instead, what we can do, and I love this, I can throw a mask layer on this. And now with the mask layer, anywhere I paint, okay, let's hide this art. Anywhere I paint on here, it masks it out, okay? But it's not gone. So if I go like this, okay, and then I hide the mask, you see it's still there, okay? But it's very useful because, watch this, if I paint underneath, okay, you see, it really is transparent. It's not just like white on there. So that's cool. Now that mask is no good, so let's get a new, better mask, okay? So it's really helpful to just take a situation like this, all right, and I'll delete that mask and make a new one, because now what I can do is I can just paint like so, and I can mask it out. And then we can see where those gaps are. And later on, if I change my mind about them, I can go back. You know what I mean? So that's some very useful stuff. Yo, Ruby's here. What up, Ruby? That's fun. Hopefully people don't mind getting shout outs. All right. Go. Okay, so that's cool, but we gotta do this side down here. So let's do it. Back onto this layer with the blue, and I'm gonna start trying to work like real fast here, because you know we're gonna run out of time, folks. I'm on the clock. Go, and then we got to do, okay, so obviously we need red, but I like this kind of orangish red color. So we're going to use this color. So we're going to come down here and that, whoops, and let's do like this. Now it doesn't really make sense, right? So here's the other thing when you draw stuff. You have to sort of think of like the physics of it, right? Because what I was about to do there would have been just stupid, because I was going to put the like things like this, okay? And that's not really good, because let's think about it for a second. If this was really goop, okay, there's like a physics to it. and this is what makes the illustration more believable. There's a center of weight right here, and that center of weight is pulling, right? It's creating a force here and here and here and here. So naturally, if there's another center of weight up here and another center of weight up here, which, you know, there is, because I say there is, this area, this would be the spot where they would pull. So realistically, if I'm going to put these things, they actually should be happening over here. So let's do that, you know what I'm saying? And let's erase you guys. Alrighty. Oh, he's so close. Okay, there we go. Alright, so let's get back in there. So we really put the pole like that. There we go. Let's zoom in a bit. People can see it better, you know. So that's the polling like that. And long one there. There too, maybe one more, like so. Okay, and how the heck did I do this before? I just kind of went like that. Okay, so then the red is gonna go like this. This is the other thing that happens when I'm drawing, is I'm not thinking that hard at first, and then I start to really like figure out the process I should be taking. So now I know where those color boundaries are going to be, because I'm going to match what I did on the other, from the blue to the yellow, and all that. So that's where basically I was winging it when I was over here doing these like marks, and then I realized, oh, there's like a pattern there, and I can just replicate it if I fill it in like so. Okay, there we go. Very nice, very nice. So some of the things I want to try to do, let's say that I don't follow my usual pattern, which would be like one live stream, and then I get distracted and bogged down in work and life, and I never do it again. I've said at the beginning, I do marker illustrations mainly, but obviously I do some digital illustration here on the iPad. Shout out to my team. Several years back, they gifted me this iPad as a Christmas present. I believe it was orchestrated by and along with my wife. So here it is, being put to good/mediocre use. And anyway, but I'll get some marker drawings going on as well. But I'm also thinking I'd like to get into gouache, because I actually am okay when it comes to watercolor, but I don't like the look of watercolor, if you can believe it. However, gouache has like a more solid pigment to it, a lot more like markers. And so I bought a set of gouache paints, and I'm thinking I might give that a shot. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, do I go blue to orange? Here's the real question. Or do I go black to orange? Because the black to orange is kind of cool. Let's see. The blue to orange is pretty cool too. We're gonna do it, folks. We're doing it. All right. Thank you guys, by the way, if you're watching this. I really hope you're enjoying it, and I appreciate it too. Anyone got anything they want to ask about art? Anything? Straight up anything? I'm really not sure how live the comments are on this, to be honest. So when I see them pop up, I hope you don't feel like there's some super massive long delay or gap or anything, because it's not intentional. All right, now I gotta color this in. Let's go. Okay, so I'm gonna give this like just another couple minutes, and then I'm gonna probably have to dip because I got things I gotta do, and I'll finish this up later. I will show you guys one cool thing, so don't leave yet. I'll show you one cool thing. The reason I like using Procreate. It's a cool feature that it has. Can you see what I'm doing right now? Yeah, you can. Okay. What else have we been covering lately on Design Right? Design Right is our conservative design newsletter, by the way, in case you didn't hear at the beginning or you weren't here. It's a newsletter that I started with Amanda and Ben Westlake, colloquially known as the Westlakes, you know, and they're both designers, and they also like to write about design. Now, I like to write, but frankly speaking, I prefer to talk than to write, because the problem is that when a thought crosses my mind, I just want to say it and move on. And usually by the time I actually sit down to write, that topic's not interesting to me anymore. So that's been a bit of a challenge. Now it's a challenge I set for myself. It was my idea to do the dang thing. But writing is not my first medium of choice. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Drawing is my first medium of choice, and blibber blabbing is my second medium of choice, which everyone who knows me in person knows. So anyway, let me finish coloring this blue part, and then I'm going to show you a cool thing, and then we're going to dip, all right? Because these drawings, in case you're wondering, usually take a couple hours, because I'll start. The thing is, I get sucked into them. I get absorbed into the process of the drawing. So I'll start getting into little nitty gritty details, and before you know it, I've been sitting working on it for hours, which is maybe not justified. I don't know if it's worth it. Anyway, so wait. So nobody has yet. What art designs? Oh, hold up. See, there these comments pop up. And I didn't see this one. What art designs do you often do for work? Oh, well, so I work at PragerU, and so I run the design team there. So we do all kinds of things. Stuff I've worked on recently is the America 250 board game, the Freedom Truck, which I was not the only designer on that. There were several. And actually I wasn't even the primary designer on that. Two of our team members really took a heavy lift, and I ended up stepping in kind of later to help with some finishing touches. But that kind of stuff, for the most part, I would say projects that I like to get hands on would be motion graphics, because I like to build templates, and any kind of design thing that needs some degree of an engineering behind it to make it work. That's kind of where I try to step in. Although I guess also where illustration is concerned, because ironically, you don't really engineer things when you're just straight drawing them, do you? All right, let's color this in, and then we'll be there. Yo, what's up, Adam? All right, nobody has suggested what letter I should do on my next drawing. It's very important that I get a next letter. So what are you guys thinking? Someone throw a letter out. By the way, hey, Greek alphabet, totally fair game, doesn't have to be phonetic. Although I'd prefer that it be something in the Roman or phonetic or Greek zone, because those are symbols that actually mean something to me as far as I could recognize them. I can't do a Chinese character. That's just, or something Japanese or Arabic, or I don't know. I'm not gonna get it right, so don't suggest that. Am I locked in? Letter E. Okay, I'll do letter E next. There we go. Okay, anyway, so I have to wrap this up because I'm kind of out of time. But this is always very satisfying, is to watch the time-lapse replay on the drawings. Oh, this is going to show the whole thing. So I did this tracing because this is one of the things that I was thinking I would do. Is I've got like Pinterest images that I like and save, and I thought, well, what if I like trace over them and sketch them out as drawings? So I guess this, even though I duplicated it, it keeps the whole recording. So anyway, this is one thing I'll do some more of. And then it'll kick over to the other one in a second. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Like Procreate just records everything you do on the file, which is pretty dope. Okay, there we go. So that's the part where we're doing the letter, and then we cleaned up the edges. So you can kind of see when you do this a little bit of the process behind it. You know, whatever you're working on artistically, it's always good to just don't worry too much about the edges. You know, go over the edges, use some masking tape or whatever, and then clean the edges up later. Because the problem is if you worry too much about the edges, then your curves and your lines and your arcs aren't going to be clean. I can't stream all night tonight, Adam, unfortunately. Although I will try to do some longer ones moving forward. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep an eye out. I'll post this finished thing and maybe the time-lapse video in a little bit. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. And I think that's a wrap. Talk to you all later.